The year is 1812. Across the Atlantic, Napoleon's France and Great Britain are locked in a bitter struggle for dominance. The young United States, eager to assert itself on the world stage, finds itself caught in the crossfire. Tensions with Great Britain, already high due to maritime disputes and British support for Native American resistance on the frontier, finally boil over. The United States declares war on Great Britain, marking the beginning of the War of 1812. The war's primary theatre is the Atlantic Ocean, where the mighty Royal Navy clashes with the fledgling United States Navy. But the conflict also spills over onto land, with the vast, sparsely populated territory of British North America, what we know today as Canada, becoming a key battleground. The United States, confident in its military might and fueled by expansionist ambitions, sees an opportunity to seize Canada from British control. This ambition is not new. Since the American Revolution, many in the United States have viewed Canada as a potential prize, a land ripe for annexation. Now, with Britain distracted by the war in Europe, they believe the time is right to finally make Canada part of the United States. Little do they know they are walking into a conflict that will test their resolve and shape the future of a continent. The decision to invade Canada was driven by a confluence of factors. Firstly, the United States saw an opportunity to exploit Britain's preoccupation with Napoleon. With the bulk of British forces deployed in Europe, the defense of Canada was left to a relatively small number of regular troops, militia, and Native American allies. The Americans believed that a swift and decisive strike could overwhelm these defenders and secure a quick victory. Secondly, the invasion was fueled by expansionist ambitions. Many in the United States, particularly those in the South and West, coveted Canada's vast lands and resources. They argued that annexing Canada would eliminate a potential threat on their northern border and secure control of the fur trade. Canada was seen as an easy target, a land ripe for the taking. Thirdly, the United States was motivated by a desire to retaliate against British actions on the high seas. The British Navy had been impressing American sailors into service, claiming they were deserters from the Royal Navy. This practice, along with British interference with American shipping, had deeply angered the American public and fueled calls for war. The invasion of Canada, therefore, was seen as a way to strike back at Britain, to punish them for their perceived transgressions and assert American sovereignty. With a mix of idealism and opportunism, the United States set its sights on Canada, confident in its ability to conquer. The American invasion of Canada got off to a rocky start. Instead of one unified army, the Americans launched a series of uncoordinated attacks across the border. This lack of coordination would plague the American war effort throughout the conflict. One of the first major engagements was the Battle of Queenston Heights in Upper Canada, present-day Ontario. American forces, under the command of General Stephen Van Rensselaer, attempted to cross the Niagara River and seize the heights. The initial assault was successful, but American reinforcements were slow to arrive, and British and Canadian forces under the command of Major General Isaac Brock counter-attacked with ferocity. Brock was killed in the battle, but his death rallied the defenders. The Americans were driven back across the river, suffering heavy casualties. Queenston Heights exposed the flaws in the American war plan. Poor leadership, logistical problems, and lower-than-expected enlistment hampered the invasion. Another key engagement was the Siege of Detroit. American General William Hull, fearing a British and Native American attack, surrendered Detroit without a fight. This was a major blow to American morale and a strategic victory for the British and their allies. Hull's surrender underscored the lack of preparedness and the overconfidence that characterized the early stages of the American invasion. Facing a larger and better-equipped enemy, the defense of Canada relied on a combined effort. British regular troops, though relatively small in number, provided experience and discipline. They formed the backbone of the defense, bolstering the Canadian forces. Canadian militia, made up of local volunteers, played a crucial role. They knew the terrain and were fiercely determined to defend their homes. Their knowledge of the land proved invaluable in ambushes and delaying tactics. Perhaps the most decisive contribution came from the Native American allies, tribes like the Shawnee, led by Tecumseh, allied with the British. They saw an American victory as a threat to their land and way of life. Their fighting prowess and knowledge of the wilderness proved devastating to the American forces. The combined efforts of the British, Canadians, and Native Americans successfully repelled the American invasion. The American dream of an easy conquest was shattered against the rocks of a determined defense.